Okay, so
in a country like Nigeria.
Let me ask a question, and I'd like you to answer it, but I also want to come back to the panel. Is it the responsibility of government to employ?
Well, it is the responsibility of the government to create an enabling environment
for
employment to thrive. Now, the major cause of unemployment in Nigeria is lack of power.
Okay, you've already said quite a bit, so I'd like to get in the second gentleman behind you and then come back to the panel. Yeah.
Is it?
Enabling environment.
Let me have that. My name is Chief Kingsley Okafor. I'm a creative arts development economist. I'm a national president, Association of Professional Creative Artists and Designers in Nigeria. I'll give you some mind-boggling statistics. Today, California is the 6th world economy. Why is that? Because of creative industry. In UK today, every 10 jobs created, 10% of that is from the creative industry. What are we doing to really grow the creative industry? If you go to UK today, the British Museum receives about 6,000 visitors every day, paying £20, and they make so much money every day. Are we developing the creative industry enough here to be able to create the jobs?
Let me
That's
come
one
back
of the questions that we need to
deal with.
address.
So we've had two issues raised here about government creating an enabling environment. What are your thoughts about the role of government and what it should do?
I think
first of all,
it begins first from our financial policy, the budget. So when we look at our budget, what are the key areas or the priority areas? Because we've had issues of industrialization mentioned, we've talked about power, we talked about transportation. Because these are areas that if you build and develop these sectors, it automatically promotes entrepreneurship amongst younger people. Imagine a young person that runs a business but spends half his or her profit in trying to run a generator to service his or her business. So most times we say, let's create jobs, but we have investment initiative that just pushes percentages of the budget to provide money for people, but we don't focus on building these key sectors that would enable productivity.
So would you rather Mrs. Uwais is out of work and the focus, goes to power, goes to, all the things you've listed, rather than this sort of initiatives? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily saying being out of work, but rather let us look at what is sustainable. Because if you invest in priority sectors, whichever government comes in power would willingly continue with that, because these are sectors that would be there irrespective of what comes in power. But if you have a special program for a particular regime, there's no assurance that the next government will want to continue in that. So why invest so much in providing people with allowances for a period of time, and then after some years they wouldn't have access to that?
It's a valid
and how
point,
can they start
it?
up businesses if there is no sector to promote
it is a
productivity?
Valid point.
It is valid, but you see, you need to look at the philosophy behind it and the reasoning behind it. In my view, actually, I know that the government has made a lot of promises that they did not fulfill, but the one of social protection is one of the promises they made and made effort to fulfill it, in terms of budgetary allocation and in terms of what they are doing.
Okay, I have to go to Mrs. Westphal because I have to go to break, and this is
Brazil, China. How did they lift people out of poverty? It's a good program. What I think they need to do is to implement it, increase the numbers, and it will affect the trajectory of poverty in Nigeria.
I guess he's answered it for you.
But I'd like to say, on the knowledge economy, we also have an eye on that, and we have 8 technology hubs coming in because we see that technology is the future. We've already started one, placed in, hosted by the AUN, supported by the International Committee of the Red Cross, on humanitarian applications, that technology challenges that face us on gender. We have one in Lagos that's focusing on climate change, on renewable energy. That is about to start off. It's supported by the World Bank. We have another program that's STEM Junior. It's going to be we're going to be funding 218 schools with computers, primary and secondary, to stimulate the coding and the programming and the animation, all of that.
One other person maybe from the audience before we go to break. Mr. Nuhu Atta. Okay, Mr. Nuhu Atta has spoken. Yes, the gentleman there.
Good day. My name is Ojemen Jonathan Usegale. I want to, first of all, commend the government for their input in skills acquisition. I'm a fashion designer, but I'm a graduate of psychology, actually. After studies, I tried to practice because I loved the course, 4 years. I did a lot. But in a matter of time, I moved into fashion designing. And from now, I'm doing so well. And what I've seen so far in fashion design is that as many fashion designers we have, we can't still make enough to meet the needs of Nigerians. I believe that if skills acquisition is brought, So
you think that's a sector that could help drive
that would,
growth?
Yeah, and increase the economy in all sides.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, quickly, Dr. Kale, you deal with statistics, and I have to assume you also look at statistics from other places, just to be able to, get a sense of what you do. What are statistics telling you about places that have managed to create employment? What are they doing? What are the statistics that jump out?
Well, in addition to most of the things that have been said, I think there's also an element of dignity in labor. We have in Nigeria certain jobs that we have designed in our minds as not decent for us to do, but in other countries you find that there are people that are making decent. For example, what many of us have domestic helps in our house, what they call au pairs in the UK. In the UK, it's a dignified job.
And they make decent money
but if you ask someone to go and do that in Nigeria, it's considered menial.
Maybe because the pay, though, is really bad.
So when you're talking about what government now, if you create a policy around that specifies for you to get a domestic assistant or help in your house, there's a minimum amount of money you must pay them.
Isn't
there's
that
a job, you define the job description, what you can do.
I'm going to
make it more.
We'll come back to this. Yeah. I'm going to have to take a quick break now. Please don't go away. Welcome back. Now I have very few minutes left, so I want to quickly try and wrap up. And if I start with you, Ms. Mbamanu, start with telling me what your summation is about how we can solve this problem.
I think, one, we need proper coordination of every financial investment in youth development or for employment and all. We need to go back to the industry to rebuild back our industries and identify the priority areas in our budget for 2018, because the budget will be presented. So what are the things that government can invest in? Immediate things that can be sustained.
Dr. Kale?
I would summarize it as creating the enabling environment. I think government's job is to create the enabling environment. And the jobs are created, the businesses are open, they are created, and jobs will be created by doing that. I don't think it is something government has to go into detail of every sector. I think you just create the basic requirements, power, roads, and so on, and business automatically is created. And that's what you find in other countries.
2 quick points. A lot of things need to be done. The root causes need to be addressed, whether it's power, whether it's corruption, whether it's focus on agriculture, industry, and so on. And then secondly, the current programs, like the social investment program, that is meant to, bring employment, need to be expanded. The numbers are too few.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Uwais. And also, maybe if you could comment quickly on what happens to your programs, continuity, when this government is no longer in office.
Well, I'm not too sure that this government will not remain in office.
Well, forever.
Let me just say that I find what is most sustainable is investing in our human beings. That remains with them for good. So what we're doing, actually, is trying to stimulate productivity in our human beings, create capacity, and support them with stipends. Now, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the countries in this world that have had these programs begin like this, and when the public understand what is happening, they appreciate it, they clamor for it. Okay. And so that's how Bolsa Familia, all of it became entrenched. And no government that came in after could say, we're not going to do it.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there because we have run out of time. Thank you so much to my panel, to my studio audience, and to all of you at home. You can join us for the next edition of The Core on Wednesday, the 6th of December. On behalf of Channels Television and Daria Media, I'm Kadria Ahmed, wishing you a very good evening.